Hello YouTube, welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be reacting to some NBA trade ideas on Fanspo. And I'm going to tell y'all if it's a realistic trade or not, and if either team should make it, or if neither team should make it. So let's get started. These are the top traded players right here. Siakam, Levine, Caruso, DeRozan, Hunter, Anunoby, Holmes, all them. You can see them right there. But today we are going to see, I guess, if any of those guys are really the top trending traded players. So let's go get started. So we are going to go to Fanspo NBA and posts, I think, is what we want. So our first trade here that we have is Pascal Siakam to the Atlanta Hawks for 4 players and 2 picks, headlined by Patty Mills and DeAndre Hunter, probably like Muhammad Jai in there. And no, it's AJ Griffin and Kobe Buffkin, and a first this year and in 2029. So I think this is a realistic trade. I think Siakam could end up going to Atlanta to team up with DeJounte Murray and Trae Young. But I don't think that this would be the package for Siakam. I feel like DeAndre Hunter is a good baseline starter, and Patty Mills would get moved to a third team in this trade. Buffkin is a guy that they would want, but I don't feel like Atlanta would part with him just yet. They would either keep AJ Griffin or Buffkin in this trade. They would be perfectly fine with trading those 2 picks if they got Siakam. So let's try our own trade here. See what I can come up with that would get Siakam to the Hawks. So our first team we have up here is the Atlanta Hawks. And our second team that we're going to have here is the Toronto Raptors, the 10th and the 11th seeds out east. A report came out the other day and said that if anyone on the Raptors was to get traded, it would be Siakam. So now if it ever loads, that's all we're waiting for right now. So now that it finally loaded, I think that a perfect trade for Pascal Siakam would be so the Hawks, they're 27 million over the tax. They're 41 million under the tax. So the Hawks just cannot be over the tax. So they're gonna have to give up DeAndre Hunter. So that's a good starter. And I think that if they did this trade, the Raptors, Scotty Barnes would move to their point guard full time, and Anunoby would be more of the 2, or DeAndre Hunter maybe. The Hawks are still 7 million under over the tax though, so they need to include some more guys. I think that Patty Mills is the guy that they would trade, like that guy had him. And then I think that the other guys, instead of AJ Griffin, I think Bruno Fernando. And then I think Kobe Buffkin has to get traded in this deal. But Atlanta isn't that sad about parting with him if they're doing this trade to try to become a contender, because he has not really played this year at all anyway. Then they can't trade away that pick, but they can trade away the Sacramento pick. So they trade that to the Raptors. And then I think this 2030 pick, if you lottery protect it, I think this is a more realistic trade, giving up Fernando and then lottery protecting a 2030 pick rather than giving up a 2029 and AJ Griffin. I don't know if the Raptors would be as likely to accept, but I feel like they would be happier, or the Hawks would be happier, excuse me, giving up Fernando than Griffin for sure. Next up, this thing is taking forever to load. Okay, here we go. Siakam to the Kings. So Siakam is everywhere. Let's see the Siakam to the Kings one. It's 36 seconds ago, actually. Okay, that's really weird. But if it ever loads, let's look at the Siakam to the Warriors. I think that is a trade that could happen this year. Siakam to the Golden State Warriors. But I think Chris Paul would have to be traded in it, so it would have to probably be a 3-team deal. So Siakam to the Kings. I guess we're gonna look at that now. My computer's doing weird stuff, but hopefully it didn't restart this video. Siakam to the Kings, please. What is happening? Okay, finally, Siakam to the Kings. So they have Siakam and Otto Porter to the Kings for Harrison Barnes, Kevin Herter, Sasha Vasenkov, a 2026 and 2029 first round pick. I think that this is a trade that the Kings would 1000% do. I think it's more on if the Sacramento or if the Raptors would want to do this. They're getting an older wing in Harrison Barnes who's making 17 million a year for the next 3 years. I don't know if they would want that contract, but they are getting off the Otto Porter contract, which is a similar age player, just a lot cheaper. Kevin Herter is a guy that they would definitely want to trade. I think if they get him, they would want to trade Gary Trent away. And Vasenkov is pretty old, but they could potentially develop him. And then they're getting picks down the line. I don't think that's a realistic trade, to be honest. So next up, let's look at some more trades. So next up here we have OG Anunoby to the Thunder. The Thunder would be giving up 2 first round picks this year, the Rockets and the Clippers, and a 2027 Denver pick, and Davis Bertans to get OG Anunoby. I would like this trade for the Thunder because we would be finally getting another good player. But the only problem with it is that we already have Lou Dort, and Lou Dort and OG Anunoby are very similar players, both amazing 3 and D or scoring and D players. So I don't think we need OG Anunoby. I feel like a Lowry Markin would be better for the Thunder. I feel like the Raptors would do that in a heartbeat, get 3 picks for a guy who is on an expiring deal because I think he has a player option. And the Thunder, I wouldn't do that if I was the Thunder. Next up, we have a massive trade between the Pacers, Jazz, and Pistons that we're looking at here. I don't know what it was. I couldn't really tell. But it has Lowry Markin and Boyan going to the Pacers, along with Chris Dunn and Bryce Sensabaugh. This isn't a realistic trade, but I still want to look at it. The Jazz would be getting James Wiseman, Jaden Ivey, and Killian Hayes, and Jarris Walker. That is a really, really, really good return for what it looks like they're only really giving out Markkinen and THT and Sensabaugh, I guess. Chris Dunn's not that big of a deal, but they're getting 3 really good young players, and that's if you don't count James Wiseman. And then they would also be getting a first round pick this year and next year, and a 2027 first round pick. The Pistons would be getting Buddy Hield, which I don't know why they would want Buddy Hield. He's basically the same thing that they would have in Bojan Bogdanovic, an old guy on an overpaid contract who they don't want. And then THT is a good guy to replace Killian Hayes. Benedict Mathurin is a really good guy that they would be getting in this trade. And then Isaiah Jackson. But I don't. This guy must hate the Pistons because they would be giving up Bojan Bogdanovic, James Wiseman, who still has a little bit of potential. Jaden Ivey was one of the best rookies last year. Killian Hayes is pretty good. And a first round pick down the line to get a guy on an expiring deal who they don't want, a guy on an expiring deal who's pretty good, a guy with a ton of potential, and a guy that I guess still has a little bit of potential. I'd hate this trade for the Pistons. If the Jazz did it, they would 100% be the winners. The Pacers would end up being the best team out east, though. The next trade I want to look at here is a trade that I think is kind of realistic just because it's a smaller trade. The only thing I don't like about this trade is Jalen Hood-Schifino being traded. It's Jeff Green to the Lakers for Jalen Hood-Schifino, the Lakers' first-round pick this year, is who Hood-Schifino was. Maxwell Lewis, the other Lakers rookie, and 2 second-round picks. The thing with this trade here is Jeff Green is on a 1-year deal, and he's not as good as he once was. He's still a good guy that the Lakers would be getting here, but Jalen Hood-Schifino would not be getting traded in this deal. These 3 would be the baseline for the deal, and I feel like that's all they would really need to get Jeff Green. I don't know. Jalen Hood-Schifino just feels like a lot, though. So I couldn't find enough trades that I wanted to react to. So now I want to go over some trades that I think are realistic that could end up happening in real life. So here we go. I think DeMar DeRozan is going to be on the move eventually, and I feel like the team that would be perfect for him would be the New York Knicks, just because they kind of need a guy like DeRozan. So I think the perfect package for DeRozan. I don't know if RJ Barrett would be in the trade, but I feel like it would 100% be Evan Fournier just to match salaries. And then I know Emmanuel quickly will be in there. And then it's just if they value Quentin Grimes, which I think the Bulls would value Grimes a lot in this trade. And then the Knicks, who have 23 picks in total, they would give up this Dallas pick, which is top 10 protected this year. And they would give up this Wizards pick, which is, or no, that's not even going to convey. So they would give up this 2026 pick of their own. And this is all for a guy on an expiring deal. So I feel like this is a trade that would happen. They wouldn't have to give up anything else for DeRozan, only because he's on an expiring deal. He would be likely to re-sign after this, but he hasn't even been that great this year. The Bulls would be getting Fournier, who they would probably buy out at the trade deadline or something. Then they would be getting Quickly, who's an amazing young guard, and Quentin Grimes, who's a good 3-and-D guy, has OG Anunoby potential. And then 2 picks, one this year and one in 2026. I feel like that's a trade that both teams would want to do. And if I were to be grading it, if it happened right now, I would give the Bulls a 9.2 and the Knicks a 10. They'd be getting their guy and keeping RJ Barrett. So next up, another trade I want to go over is I want to go over a trade that could send Jarrett Allen to the Golden State Warriors. A trade here that would get the 11th seeded Warriors a new big, and for the Cleveland Cavaliers, it would get off a big man that they don't really need that much with Evan Mobley. They don't need both the bigs, I don't think. So if you trade Jarrett Allen to the Warriors, you're left with this, and then I think it would be Andrew Wiggins to the Cavaliers, and then they would have to give up Moody, who hasn't been that great yet so far in his career anyway, and they would have to give up Guy Santos, and then in return, the Warriors would be getting Sam Merrill, who was pretty good in the summer league. And then I think what would happen from here is the Warriors would give up a pick. I don't know which one it would be. Probably this 2028 one because that's the only one that they can really trade. And then the Cavs would give up a second round pick that Golden State originally owned this year and a 2025 second round pick. This is a trade that could happen in real life. I've seen people talking about, oh, they would have to get $5 million less. Okay, so the Cavs would have to get what did I say, $5 million less dollars. So they would have to send out somebody worth about $5 million. I think Ricky Rubio would fit that perfect, as long as it doesn't put the Warriors over now. But I saw Andrew Finichel saying that the Warriors could trade for Jarrett Allen, and I think that's a good point. I think that is a trade that could happen in real life. Three good players and a pick for Allen, Rubio, Merrill, and 2 seconds. Allen has been playing down this year after he was an All-Star not that long ago. So I think the Warriors would be fine with doing that trade. Next up, we have a trade involving the Miami Heat and the Detroit Pistons with Bojan Bogdanovic. I think that Bojan Bogdanovic is going to be traded sooner rather than later, and I think that the team will jump on the opportunity to get him is the Miami Heat. So Bojan, the highest paid player on the Detroit Pistons, would be sending him to the Heat, and in return, the Pistons, who aren't that close to the salary cap, they'd be getting Nikola Jovic in this trade. And then I'm trying to figure out if I want to trade Kyle Lowry or not, because Duncan Robinson has been pretty good. I think I would want to hold on to him. So let's do this and then trade this 2030 pick. Nikola Jovic and a 2030 pick. And then just to make it fair, we'll do a swap best pick in 2028 in this trade. So the Heat need to cut $2.5 million from this trade. So if we go to the Heat, go to their roster. We just need a guy making more than $2.5 million that will have to go over as well. And we will go with. So I decided that this trade doesn't have any chance of working, so I just scrapped it. So there's one more trade I want to go over before the video is over. I was tinkering with it earlier. I already have the outlines like kind of remembered in my head. It was between the Trailblazers, the Warriors, and the San Antonio Spurs. Three teams that are fighting for play-in spots, or in the Spurs case, they just don't want to win any games. So two teams that might be fighting for a play-in spot. One of them sucks in this trade. I don't know how to move this. That was weird. Oh, here we go. Okay, so the Trailblazers. Okay, so this is the trade I was drawing up kind of earlier. So the Warriors would be getting Malcolm Brogdon. Chris Paul would be going to the San Antonio Spurs, actually. Then Doug McDermott would go to the Trailblazers. Devontae Graham would go to the Trailblazers. I don't know who all the Warriors would give up. That's the thing I don't remember. Let's say Guy Santos to the Trailblazers. I remember that actually now. And Moses Moody to the Trailblazers as well, I think. And then the Warriors would be getting Chris Murray. Ryan Rupert would be going to the Spurs. Another French guy going there. I think this is the outline of all the players that went. So this is the outline. You can see it here. Ryan Rupert and Chris Paul to the Spurs. The Spurs get Chris Paul, who's a young mentor for Wemby or for Jeremy Sohan, who's trying to play the point guard. So that's a good point guard that they can have there to develop their guys. Ryan Rupert, a Frenchman rookie to help play with Wemby and Sidi Sissoko. Chris Murray and Malcolm Brogdon go to the Warriors. Murray hasn't really got that much playing time for Portland this year as a rookie, and Brogdon is an upgrade over Chris Paul on defense and offense, and he can run the shooting guard better than Paul can, so he can play with Curry. And then the Spurs get Moses Moody, a former lottery pick young guy, Guy Santos, the Warriors rookie, who was drafted a couple of years ago, Devontae Graham, and Doug McDermott, who are both for salary matching purposes. I think we'll just trade like Ish Wainwright to the Warriors because he's a guy that they would actually kind of value because he's an older wing defender who's a vet that knows what he's doing. And then I think Charles Bassey was also headed to the Warriors in this deal. Yeah, that's I think what it was. And then the Warriors give up a 2027 lottery protected pick to Portland. So I had to take a break. I don't know where we left off if we even finished the trade, but I know I had the outlines of it here. So I'm going to do one more trade just because I don't even know if I finished that one or not. I'm going to do an Alex Caruso trade. So in this trade, we're going to be sending Alex Caruso. I need to figure out a good team for him. The Magic don't need him. Bucks don't need him. Sixers don't need him. Pacers probably don't need him. Cavs don't need him. Knicks don't really need him. Nets don't need him. No, I could see him on the Nets, actually. No bad teams would be trading picks for Caruso, I don't think, because he's like 30. The Nuggets, maybe? Lakers, Mavs, Thunder, Timberwolves. Let's do the Rockets. The Rockets are going to trade for Alex Caruso in this scenario. They will be giving up. They'll be definitely giving up picks. So we'll get to the picks in a second. But I think that the main player that's going to headline this trade is Jae'Sean Tate, who the Bulls would be using as a young 3-and-D guy. And then I think that they would give up, what pick? They have thousands of picks. Probably the 2028 pick, if we're being realistic. And then Cam Whitmore might be traded in this trade, but not if they're already giving up Tate. So you could swap out Cam Whitmore and Jae'Sean Tate if you wanted to redo this. And then I think Jermaine Samuels would also be traded. So if you try the trade, it's probably hopefully going to work. And yes, that's a success. Thank you guys for watching. Sorry I had to pause a couple times, but these are the realistic trades and the trade reactions of today. I'll be back with another video either today or tomorrow, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.